Welcome back, guys. Nodes. So previously we talked about workflows, which are kind of stitching these nodes together. And each node represents some unit of work. And that kind of included something like, I don't know, get user data, write an email using an LLM, and send out an email. But now we're talking a little bit more tangibly on what these nodes look like. There are a lot of names in front of you, right? You have Gumloop, you have Lindy, you have N8N, and you have Zapier. I tell you, this is not an exhaustive list. There are right now hundreds of workflow builders where you can build your workflows. These tools have been very common, like Make.com. I also remember building workflows in AWS with like drag and drop. But the thing that's different about them is there is AI in between. So when I use AI workflow or workflow, just think about them as kind of these steps of work in order, and you can now add AI to just make them 10 times better. So Zapier, if you've heard and if you've used it for your business cases, is some sort of automation, but just powering an LLM in between just makes it go all kinds of crazy. All right. So when I use the word workflow or AI workflow, I'm kind of representing a very simple concept. And don't get carried away with like an AI part. It's just understanding the process of it. So if you look at each of these nodes, so you have a Gumloop node, you have a Lindy node, and you have an N8N node, and you have a Zapier node. And each of these nodes basically do this work where they go to a website and then scrape it. If you have some sort of unit of work, you need to kind of tell it how to do it sometimes or what to do exactly. Like maybe if you want to print something, you tell it what to print, right, in programming. Or generally, if you, let's say, go to the store to buy something, you give the instruction on what to buy. So in this case, the instruction that you have to give is in particular to the URL that you're scraping. So you can see each of these website scrapers have some sort of a URL. Could be represented as websites or just a URL, and then you can see it here. In Zapier, you don't see it because you need authentication from a different service, so you can access that part, and when you sign up to your account, it will show the URL. Now kind of thinking about just this idea of like a node kind of existing, and there's going to be some nodes over here, some nodes over here, and then this node in between. And so for a website scraper, you can think about what can come before it. Like there's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. Maybe things can come before it is maybe someone makes a Google Calendar invite and you want to search their company. And then you basically try to find their company and search it based on their end of their email. And things after it, maybe it sends you an email to basically be well equipped when you go to the meeting. So we're going to do a quick demo, but as you can see here that there are different parameters we were talking about. Previously it was URL. In this case, some of these tools might basically have personal data. So they might use some sort of authentication. In terms of Gmail, you basically have to sign up with your account. And the operations might be get one, get many, or in this case, the limit is 10. So that's like how many messages you want, right? Same thing if like you're buying apples, like the person might ask how many apples you want. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the demo part. So if you kind of go to, okay. All right. So if you're here, this should be when you're signed in should look like. And then there is this tool here where you can create a workflow. Don't worry if you don't know how to log in. We'll also leave a description in terms of how to basically set up an account. And then you get like a 14-day trial, which means that you can keep running these workflows without worrying about paying for it. Let's kind of go and create a workflow. We'll talk briefly about what the editor is, executions, evaluations, but they're pretty self-explanatory. But if you're going to create a node, as we talked about, workflows has nodes. And some nodes are triggers, some nodes are a unit of like different type of in-app actions. So in this case, normally you would have to trigger something manually, but there's no need. We're going to create a Gmail node, and you have get many messages. So right. So there was a separate one, which is like get one message. But in this case, we're going to say get many messages. And you can see that I already have a Google account. I can go and probably delete it. But you can see that this account is connected. But if you want to do it, you just basically go and create a new credential. And then you just basically sign into Google. And then it's going to open the Google Auth. And then basically you can sign in, and that will allow you to access that part of the Google Calendar. Apologies, Gmail. So I don't want 50 because that's way too many. I'm just going to go with 10, right? And then I'm just going to execute this step. So this is basically isolating the execution. Like you can test out these things, nodes separately. So if you can see, it waits for a second. Oh, unable to sign access without the access token. Yes, so I was trying to sign in with a separate account that I made, which I didn't actually end up signing in. So I'm going to use the previous one. Okay. And there we go. Execute step. And there you can see it kind of got my emails. It kind of gives you data back in multiple formats. And one of them is this schema where you can see what labels this has. So each email ID is going to have an ID, a threshold ID, a snippet. So each of these outputs have different schema. This is basically the components of what's returned. And you can see a more detailed version in the table. And these things could be like there's a lot in terms of like what is the ID, what is the payload, what is the snippet. This is part of the email. And this could also be accessed in JSON. So later, you can use these things in the next node. So we'll talk about how transfer data works. But the idea is like there's so many, right? Like sometimes you might not even need the ID when you're like summarizing your emails, right? Like why would you need an ID? That's for like the computer to think about. So so we'll talk about how to use these categories and kind of pass them to the next node. But what I want you to do is like now as an exercise, think about what kind of nodes you can make. So we have the Gmail, we have Sheets, we have Google Sheets here. You can look at the actions, what kind of actions. Maybe you can create a spreadsheet, right? You can delete a spreadsheet. You can do all kinds of stuff. Anything you would be able to go in a GUI or like a graphical user interface and do, you can do it here. And let's say something esoteric, HubSpot. All right. These are basically triggers. We'll talk about what triggers are. Get an engagement. Oh, get many engagements. Create a ticket. I am not very familiar with all these tools. There's hundreds. So what I will basically recommend you to do is look at these tools that you basically relate with. There are so many. Okay, Coda. Okay, so if you're using Cloudflare, Coda, Cooper, there's hundreds of integrations here. And yeah, whichever one. Zoom. Okay, didn't know Zoom. Zoho. Use Zoho Mail. YouTube. Let's see what YouTube's cooking. Get a channel, get many channels, create a playlist, get a playlist. Cool. So yeah, so think about this as the intro to nodes. And in the next unit, we'll be talking about how these nodes get connected through the data that flows between them, right? So you have one unit of work, you kind of have to like have data kind of keep flowing through them. So I will see you in the next unit. And yeah, up till then, take care.